So welcome back to the channel. So as promised, wait a moment. There we go. Welcome back. So as promised, the next video is gonna be from my balcony. As you see, I have nicely decorated it with some nice bamboo here. We have some nice grass panels here. We have some plants. Really nice balcony. This is as far out as I mostly go during Corona times. This is just gonna be a quick update video on the Corona situation in Japan right now. The last video I did was 2 weeks ago, and 2 weeks before that I did another video. So yeah, 2 weeks ago on April 8th, there was a soft lockdown that has happened in 7 prefectures around Japan, the most affected by Corona, which included Tokyo, which included Osaka, Hyogo, and some other prefectures, mostly around Tokyo. This state of emergency was actually extended to the entire country, roughly a week after it was first announced on these 7 prefectures. Now I say soft lockdown because the government doesn't really have any legal power to stop people from going outside, as it does in other countries. But there is still kind of a really strong urge or very strong request for people to not go outside, to spend as much time as possible inside. If you want to know more details about the lockdown and what it entails, what it doesn't, I'd recommend watching the video up here, which I did 2 weeks ago. The information stayed mostly the same. As I said, just the lockdown was extended to the entire country. So what else has been happening? Already back in March, Shinzo Abe, the Prime Minister of Japan, announced that in order to help people combat Corona and help Japan combat Corona, each household will receive 2 kind of wood masks like this, like a woolen face mask and reusable face mask that you can wash and use again. Now these masks have slowly started to arise in a recent days, maybe like a week ago. We haven't gotten them yet, but we are still waiting. So as I said, each household, that means we are 2 people living together, we're gonna get 2 masks, which kind of also drew criticism when it was first announced, because you only have 2 masks per household. If there are like 3 or 4 or maybe even 5 people living in a house, you're gonna have to suddenly share 2 masks between them, which is weird. The government later amended this, that if you have children that are younger than 15, you can actually request your masks for the household. But yeah, some of the masks have started to arrive, and already there were some issues, like some of the masks were kind of broken, some were dirty, some people even found bugs inside, like their plastic bags that the masks came with. And some prefectures even started handing out tickets to households, kind of not relying on the Shinzo Abe masks, instead trying to give masks to people directly to combat Corona. Now another kind of sort of present by the Japanese government or by Shinzo Abe was a cash handout that is given to any citizen or any person that is registered with an address in Japan. Cash handout is going to be 100,000 yen, and anybody who has been registered until today at the local city hall, even if it's a foreigner, even if the person is unemployed or doesn't pay any taxes, will receive this one-time cash handout of 100,000 yen, which is around 980, 970 US dollars. This plan was originally changed from giving 300,000 yen to the most needy households around Japan, which included low-income families and also just people struggling. So instead, everybody just gets 100,000 yen. The way to receive this money will either be if you have like a My Number card, which is kind of like a tax ID, sort of. You can apply online for it. If not, you will receive kind of a letter in the mail where you have to fill in the details, send it over, and then you will receive the money in your bank account. We haven't received it yet, but most likely it will start kind of rolling out from today and until like May, maybe latest in the end of May. This is actually similar to a stimulus package that the Japanese government did in the 2008-2009 financial crisis, where they also kind of gave out cash. It wasn't as kind of far-fetched as just everybody, but it's kind of a similar measure. Now let's take a look at the lockdown. How are the kind of soft lockdown measures holding up? Because as I said, there is no force or no kind of law that mandates that people should stay inside. It's just asking people to not go outside. So kind of in Japan, it works not quite where they just decide on one thing and then it's just going to be dead for the whole month. Kind of the measures have been kind of stepped up as the lockdown continued. So in the beginning, you still had most stores open, you still had a lot of people going outside and everything. But then kind of as the situation more or less worsened, more and more stores started closing down. And kind of as you had more and more problems emerge, which I'll get to in a second, you also had kind of measures taken against it. So the most recent news today was that in major urban areas like Tokyo, Kyoto, Nagoya, Hiroshima, the movement of people has been down between like 60 and 80% on the higher end in some parts of Tokyo. Movement of people has definitely been down, which is great because less people moving outside means that people are staying actually inside and are not spreading the disease. However, this also led to a problem that people are not kind of congregating in these urban areas or like central Tokyo and stuff, that they are going to like more of the local area. So if you have like local shopping areas, supermarket, they have this like typical shotengai, which is kind of like a shopping street in Japan, and a lot of those are filled with people. But not all stores are closing again. Store closures are on a voluntary more or less basis. So stores can choose to be open if they want or if they deem themselves necessary for daily life. Yeah, a lot of stores in these Shotengai areas are still open, which means that people still congregate there. And yeah, that just leads to a lot of masses in these kind of narrow streets. Another kind of issue with this lockdown is that people still have to go to work, and it's not only essential workers but also some general people who work in the office. The thing in Japan is, even though it might seem like a very high-tech country from the outside, a lot of its kind of business rulings are still very like low-tech. So you have these really old-school kind of stamps, which are called hanko. These are official stamps that you need to sign documents, to get contracts to make contracts legal, to get any kind of business dealings done. The problem is these hankos are usually in the main office and they stay there. You don't really want to take them home, even if you have like a home office kind of work situation. So a lot of people who are in a home office, they still have to commute to the main office just to get this kind of stamp and to approve contracts or stuff like that. Same goes for faxing. Yeah, faxing, I don't know, it's like a technology from the 80s, but it's still very used in Japan. And the faxing machines are always in the office as well, so people have to commute to the office, which means that around 60% in a survey said that they still commute to the office, which makes trains cramped, which means that the disease can probably spread further in there as well. So it's probably no surprise that there's currently talks about extending the lockdown probably until the end of May. The government will decide in this week, which is the Golden Week, which is the busiest travel period in all of Japan. They will decide whether to extend the lockdown or not. Kind of government sources have been hinting strongly that it will be extended, but most recently you actually had the number of corona cases sink to like 72. New corona cases in Tokyo sink to 72, which is the first time in a while that it has dipped below triple figures. So maybe with the relaxation, the government might actually end this lockdown or the state of emergency as early as May 6th. But again, a final decision will be made during Golden Week, which is going to be between today and next Thursday. Speaking of Golden Week, let's talk about another issue, which is people traveling. Suddenly you have a lot of people in Japan who normally don't get any holidays or barely get holidays, to basically just have time off because their workplace is closed or just because they don't really have anything else to do. A big issue that you saw reported on news was people going to the ocean, to Enoshima, to Kamakura, Shonan Golden Coast area, some places like Fujisawa, and basically just spending time around the ocean. There, the weather is starting to get better, except for today. Normally the weather is really good. It's being almost 30 degrees on some days. So people are going outside and enjoying their time, but the problem is, well, people getting there, that means getting on trains, people congregating around these areas. There's not a lot of space and people are just kind of crammed together, which means that the disease can spread further. And you had the same issue with mountains. For example, Mount Tsukuba in Ibaraki Prefecture also saw tons of people there. One of the parking lots, the main parking lots, reported 600 cars there. And if you have narrow hiking trails, well, you're probably going to get into contact. Social distancing not really possible there. This went as far as the affected prefectures around the ocean issuing a joint statement asking people not to come, closing down some parking lots so that people cannot park their cars there and come by car, and also going even as far as requesting roads to the city being closed so people cannot come by car. Same with the Mount Tsukuba. They also shut down their main parking lot so that people cannot climb there. But yeah, this problem will probably increase during this week because as I said, it is Golden Week, which is usually the most busy travel period around the year, where almost everybody gets a couple of days off, maybe up to a week off, and that means the travel normally is exploding and normally everything is booked out. Now, it will obviously not be that bad this year, but you will still have maybe a lot of people who already did their bookings maybe like a month ago or 2 months ago, still already arranged with their work that they have the days off. And with very few days off normally during the year, it might seem for them like a waste to not go, understandably, because if you only have 2 or 3 days maybe off consecutively normally and you suddenly have a week, then it might not be, you might not feel as inclined even during Corona to not go outside and have fun. The Tokyo government and other local governments already asked people to stay home, but it's only a request, so who knows if that will work. But I guess depending on the numbers of this holiday period, then the Japanese government will make a decision on whether to extend the state of emergency or not. Now, last but not least, let's talk about the impact on tourism in Japan. Obviously, very big impact around the world. In Japan, the numbers of incoming tourists in March decreased by 93% compared to the same period last year. So a massive drop. Same for outgoing tourists, Japanese going to other countries. They'd also dropped by around 86% Japan compared to the same period last year. Japan currently has a travel entry ban on people from 73 countries. That includes almost all of Europe, that includes the US, that includes South Korea, that includes just a lot of countries around the world. And that means that anybody who has visited any of these 73 countries within the last 2 weeks will not be able to enter Japan under any visa whatsoever. This also applies to long-term visa holders. So if you have a marriage visa, if you have a spouse visa, if you have some kind of long-term working visa. So if you are in Japan and you want to maybe go back home to visit some family, I would reconsider it because you won't be able to go back home. They recently extended this ban until the end of May. Probably will extend it further, but if you are in Japan, I would stay put. What I'm doing, I cannot legally, I can stay here legally, but I cannot leave and come back into any country. So that's why, yeah, if you are in Japan, I would just stay put if you want to be here long term, or just get out, and then maybe you won't be able to come back for a while. So yeah, those are pretty much all of the updates I can give you. As I said, we are still waiting for the masks, we are still waiting for the money. We will see if the lockdown measures have been successful during Golden Week, and depending on that, the state of emergency might be extended until the end of next month or until the end of May. But yeah, I will try to make another update video if there's any new kind of news, new developments going on, maybe the next week or maybe next 2 weeks, maybe earlier if there's some kind of big news related to Corona in Japan. But yeah, if you don't want to miss that, I would recommend subscribing, like the video if you liked it, it would help the channel grow. And yeah, as always, thank you for watching, thank you very much. If you have any questions about the Corona situation in Japan, please ask them down below in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one. See ya.